Hello everyone and welcome to the Housekeeping Safety webinar. The focus of our discussion today will be on exposure to hazardous chemicals in housekeeping and the effective practices that can help prevent it. This webinar will provide you with extensive background information so you can better understand why prevention practices are effective. Our goal is to give you the knowledge needed to minimize risks and incidents associated with hazardous chemical exposure in housekeeping. My name is Michael Escobar, and I'll be driving the webinar today. The information in this presentation today was gathered by our panel, Yaelin Rodriguez, Lourdes Garcia, Estela Garcia, and myself. We are all current master's students in the Human Resources Management program at Florida International University. The agenda for today will include background information on housekeeping in the hospitality industry, current risk factors associated with hazardous chemical exposure, effective practices on housekeeping safety, and a recapitulation of the most important aspects to remember. Before we dive in, I wanted to set the tone with a quote. Safety doesn't happen by accident. This reminds us that it is our proactive efforts that make safety happen, not serendipity. First, I'm going to go over some data to provide you with the necessary background information needed in understanding why this is an important topic to discuss. The U.S. Department of Labor notes that there are about 444,200 housekeepers working in hospitality. Housekeepers make up 23.44% of the building, grounds cleaning, and maintenance occupational group, which makes up 28.5% of the industry workforce. This occupational group employs the highest amount of people in hospitality, therefore ensuring that these employees are provided with the right resources to do their job should be a top priority. The table below shows us the top 5 states with the highest employment level of housekeepers in hospitality. As you can see, Florida, the state that we're based out of, shows as the second highest employment count. But Florida has by far the highest employment per 1,000 jobs, and the location quotient tells us that there is a higher concentration of housekeeping employment compared to the national average. Here we can see a map of employment of housekeepers in the U.S. The darkest green shows us the states with the highest level of employment. This gives us a better visual of our workforce. The U.S. Department of Labor cites that in 2015, there were 7,830 cases of non-fatal occupational injuries and illnesses involving maids and housekeeping cleaners in the accommodation and food services industry. Of those cases, 470 indicate the source of injury being from chemicals or chemical products. Although this accounts for 6% of the total amount of injuries reported, it does not undermine the importance of ensuring hazards are recognized and prevented, especially since it is common in this industry for workers not to report injuries on record. Now that we have some background information on employment and injury rates, we can dive into the current risks associated with hazardous chemicals. The main factors to consider with hazardous chemical exposure is symptoms, sensitivity, and incubation period. Individuals physiologically respond to exposures in a variety of ways. Symptoms from one person may appear different in another. Understanding this allows us to respond to specific chemical exposures effectively. Sensitivity to these exposures are most important because we can assess which people are prone to exposures and make potential accommodations. Lastly, the incubation period can show us how chronic an exposure is, as well as how much exposure of the chemical has occurred. The most common health risks with chemical exposures in housekeeping include chemical contact with the skin or eyes, breathing in, or swallowing. Many cleaning chemicals are hazardous because they are corrosive and can cause skin and eye burns if splashed onto the body. Without proper controls, some may cause dermatitis, dry, sore, flaky skin, or other skin irritations, asthma, and breathing problems. Now, it is highly unlikely that any adult would ever think of drinking a chemical intentionally, but it is common to find food or drink containers being used to store hazardous cleaning substances. Touching the eyes, face, skin after handling cleaning chemicals can cause irritation, inflammation, or chemical burns. Some substances can cause breathing problems like asthma or asthma attacks if oversprayed, used without adequate ventilation, or sprayed onto hot surfaces. There can also be adverse chemical reactions when substances are mixed, for example, cleaning products containing bleach with acidic toilet cleaners or ammonia will give off harmful gases. This can cause severe lung damage or even death. Other risks arise from accidental splashes onto the skin or eyes while cleaning chemicals are being poured from one container into another one, or from spillages when being carried into open containers. When housekeepers are in the field and doing the cleaning component of their job, the risk factors are related to usage of chemicals, the environment of where they're cleaning, and exposure to the chemicals. These three factors will be looked into further when we're discussing prevention practices. Some of the harmful components in commonly used cleaning products today include dangerous and harmful chemicals, such as volatile organics compounds, which are VOCs, ammonia, chlorine, and 2-butoxyethanol. These chemicals can be cleverly disguised in marketed natural fragrances, such as citrus. These hazardous chemicals are found in aerosol spray products, chlorine-based bleaches, detergents and dishwashing liquid, dry cleaning products, rug and upholstery cleaners, furniture and floor polish. Taking a closer look at the products the housekeeping team uses in their day-to-day cleaning will give you more insight into the type of risks they are exposed to. Now that we have the current risks under our belt, let's look into some prevention practices designed to minimize the risks. There are a number of different ways to control the risk involved with hazardous chemicals in the workplace. The hierarchy of control measures the ranking from highest level of protection to the lowest. Starting from elimination and substitution, these methods change the raw material or chemicals. These are the most effective practices in eliminating and minimizing exposure and should be the methods we aim for. Sometimes they may demonstrate being the highest cost, and for that reason, we're going to go over a variety of potential solutions. Engineering controls aim to capture or enclose the source of exposure. The changes in procedures or worker behavior to reduce exposure are related to work practice control or administrative controls. PPE, or personal protective equipment, include gloves, masks, and protective clothing. Only using protective equipment is not effective enough to minimize the risks. Keeping a healthy environment has to do with various methods to eliminate the risk of exposure to chemicals. The best prevention practice includes all of the following: training, a safe environment, and the proper resources needed to handle the chemicals, and elimination or substitution of hazardous chemicals. With training, the employers and employees should be provided with the knowledge required for safe and effective use of cleaning products. They should learn that which chemicals can never be mixed or even grouped together, what to do in case of emergency when exposed to chemicals, and ensure that everyone knows the difference between caution, warning, and danger labels. Providing a safe environment and the proper resources to handle these chemicals also need to be in prevention practice. Chemicals should be placed in properly vented and cool storage areas. Employees should be trained to know how to create a safe work environment for them when cleaning. For instance, turning on the ventilation fan before cleaning a bathtub. Absorbent mats should be placed on each shelf in a storage holding that's containing the chemical products, in case of spillage. Safety signage in multiple languages and pictures that quickly explain the possible dangers and precaution need to be visible. Eliminating or substituting the hazardous chemicals lead to the most effective component to a prevention practice. There are many green chemicals that could be used instead of the hazardous ones. Just be aware, do your research, as sometimes chemicals may be marketed as green chemicals, but are still in fact harmful to your health. If applicable, use warm water and soap to clean areas. It may not give the glisten and shine some of the hazardous chemicals do, but it ensures that the worker is safe from exposure. Safety steps when using cleaning chemicals are rather straightforward. When using cleaning or household products, opening the windows and doors while cleaning should ventilate the area. Also, the use of protective gear such as gloves and nose and mouth masks will help to decrease the risk of exposure. Ammonia and bleach containing chlorine, which are common components in cleaning products, should never be used in small enclosed areas and never be mixed together due to a lethal chemical reaction that these mixtures produce. Using safer cleaning alternatives like warm water and soap, or even vinegar and baking soda, are great and safer substitutions for cleaning. It is extremely important to read all the labels on cleaning supplies and household products before using them. OSHA's guidelines require the workplace to have information sheets on hazardous chemicals for employees available and easy to access for them. Safety protective gear should be highly used to avoid any danger that may occur. Providing worker training, warning labels, and access to material safety data sheets MSDS also fall under these safety requirements from OSHA. Employees need to be aware of hazardous chemicals that they're exposed to on a daily basis. Now, I know we went over a lot of information, so let's go over a couple of main points to walk away with today. In the background information, we went over the 2015 data that shows us the housekeeping workforce in hospitality. We also discussed the injury rates associated with those numbers. It is important to know these things because it gives us insight into how many people this topic affects. We discussed the different risk factors involved in hazardous chemical exposure and also in day-to-day cleaning. All of those risk factors should be examined and diagnosed before planning a review of current work conditions and establishing a prevention practice. We went over how these risks affect a person's health. These illnesses and conditions are what we are seeking to prevent and minimize. We also reviewed the hazardous chemicals involved in housekeeping and prevention practices to minimize this risk. All of these concepts give you the resources to do something actionable about the safety risks your current organization may be facing. We started with a quote to set the tone, and now I want to leave you with a quote to contemplate on. Safety is a common denominator across all aspects of life. Hence, knowledge should always be shared. It is not a matter for industry, it is a matter for humanity. Safety isn't an industry-specific concept, but a life one. Start cultivating a culture that embraces this as a fundamental in everything that you do. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have any additional questions on the topic, please feel free to email us. Have a great day and stay safe.